With Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 52 now officially in the history books, we've come to learn that by the end of the manga chapter, Goku had not only brought Merus inside of the Room of Spirit and Time, that being the hyperbolic time chamber, but also comes to the shocking realization that Merus, out of all people, one of the lead members of the Galactic Patrol, is fully aware and knows about what Ultra Instinct is. And as we begin to progress our way forward into Dragon Ball Super manga chapter number 53, one must beg the question as to how exactly Goku's training is going to go within the hyperbolic time chamber and how far he is going to go in pushing himself against Merus, being that Vegeta is now on planet Yardrad, seemingly looking as if he is going to be learning a brand new technique of his own that is not only going to be an influence on his own ki going forward in his battle against Moro, but also seemingly looks as if he's going to be manipulating his spirit in order to not only further protect himself against Moro's magic, but perhaps maybe execute and utilize this ability to the best of his knowledge in further countering all of Moro's attacks and abilities that Moro ends up using against him. As once more, before we begin, if of course you guys are new to this channel and have a love and passion for all things Dragon Ball and anime related, then be sure to go on ahead and smash that subscribe button and turn on all notifications to never miss a single upload, including the upcoming Dragon Ball Super manga chapter scheduled to be released next month on the 20th. So if you would like to be up to date with the latest manga chapter, then be sure to go on ahead and smash that subscribe button and give this video a big fat thumbs up by slapping that like button if you guys are stoked, ready, and excited to not only see Moro back in action, but assumingly enough, if of course his goons end up failing coming to Earth, then having Moro go to Earth, which of course is inevitable looking at the plot at this point, and seeing what Moro does against the likes of assumingly Krillin, Tien, Piccolo, Android 18, Android 17, and of course Ultimate Gohan. Now, as stated from the beginning, I do believe that Moro at some point will in fact end up going to Earth, because with Moro having to insinuate that he's trying to send his strongest squadron to check out Earth, and if they report back with very strong battle powers and life forms on the planet, then Moro himself is going to take interest in heading out to planet Earth by himself, and not only having to kill off the life forms that exist on that planet, but also consume the life energy of the planet itself, along with all of the remaining life forces that inhabit the planet itself. So if Moro deems it worthy enough, he is going to go there and he is going to consume the planet's energy. But the question lingers, how would Ultimate Gohan, how would Android 17, how would anyone else fare up against Moro, being that Goku and Vegeta aren't there? And to me, this personally reminds me of a reversed revival of F, and what I mean by that is I do believe that once Moro's squad ends up going to Earth, it's probably not going to be as easy as how we saw the Z Fighters fight off against Frieza's army in ROF. I do think that Sag, 7-3, and many of the other individuals that inhabit that squad are going to give Gohan and Krillin and Piccolo and perhaps maybe 17 a very difficult time. And it's crazy to say that, but the only reason why that is because of the siphon energy that Moro gave off to Sag and his team, and being the fact that we saw how Sag and his goons went up against God Goku and God Vegeta, we can only assume that right now those individuals are probably just as strong as Gohan and many of the people on planet Earth, but there's always that chance that Gohan and Piccolo and 17, 18, Krillin, Tien, Yamcha, and whoever else is going to be involved are going to completely slap these dudes when fighting together, which is ultimately going to prompt them to call Moro, especially if they can't get the job done themselves, which is why I do think that once Moro inevitably ends up going to Earth, he is going to slap everybody, as I do believe the finale of this arc is going to take place on Earth. But it's really a matter of how they decide to end this, as joining me here today to discuss the concept of Moro versus the Z Fighters is my good friend EmoshIsLive. It's been quite some time since we had Emosh on the channel, and now Emosh, I want to welcome you back, and I wanted to ask you, when looking at Moro's direction, when looking at what they've done with the character itself, what are your thoughts on the overall narrative that they've painted out for Moro, and being the fact that he doesn't seem to care about Goku or Vegeta? He doesn't seem to be concerned about anything going on right now. The only thing he seems to be concerned about is destroying planets and gobbling up their energy. So in your opinion, what are your overall thoughts on Moro for the upcoming manga chapter going forward, and how do you think Moro is written as a character, as of course he's planning to eventually get to planet Earth?
Alright, so I guess to cut straight to the chase, opposing from when we first heard about Moro, I mean, everybody loved him. The design is great. I think the idea of him absorbing Genki and eating planets, so on and so forth, Planet Eater Moro, all that stuff is cool. People really enjoyed it, and I think to date, people still kind of enjoy the direction of the arc. And on top of the fact that we're still getting content for Dragon Ball Super as a whole, but I think, looking at Moro as a villain, I kind of see the threat factor there, but at the same time, I don't. Only because I don't know what his motives are. Obviously, yes, we will potentially find out what his actual motives are in time, but generally, there isn't really much you can do if you're a villain, eating planets, running around, sapping Genki from everything, and that's it. That's your MO. There's nothing else other than that. His whole deal was to basically, to recover his youth, to gain his power back, so on and so forth, and now he's somewhat unbeatable, right? Unless we find something. Unless the Goku and Vegeta, figure out a way to defeat him. But generally, they just can't touch him. So it's like, well, what is his plan ultimately? We don't know. And is it fair to criticize a character based on things we don't know? Well, absolutely, because you have to assume, you have to look at it from the scope of what's going on so far. I think one thing that kind of really bugged me was his third wish, and how they kind of kept it a secret. We thought that it was something that would just seal the deal to make him completely invincible, and it ends up being that he freed the prisoners. So that was kind of boring. There was just kind of like a missed opportunity there. I've had some discussions with people on Twitter and on other outlets, I guess, Discord, so on and so forth, where we would discuss well, so Emish, are you saying you would prefer immortality or something like that? Well, maybe. Because in the anime, when we got Zamasu, who was immortal, he was only half immortal. And the actual manga, he was immortal. You just couldn't defeat him. That's why Zena was kind of imperative, and it was a key factor into defeating Zamasu. So having someone like Moro, who not only can just basically live forever based on his ability to absorb Genki, so on and so forth, but the fact that he just cannot be killed, I think adds to the threat factor of Moro and makes him something that where it's okay, well, you kind of have to do a Zeno again, but maybe not with a Zeno. You need something on a comparative level. So that's kind of interesting. I think there's lots of pros and cons in the direction of Moro so far, but I think ultimately what he's missing is that villainous threat factor there, because he kind of reminds me of a Beerus and Whis, but as a villain. So he's there, he has the power to do whatever he wants, but he's not really doing anything with it. He's hanging out with folks like these fodder characters from prison, and that just kind of that just makes everything weird. It makes it fun because you get to involve other characters like Piccolo, Gohan, and Krillin Company, which is great, I think, for the chapter itself, which is great for nostalgia, which is great if you're a fan reading this stuff. But ultimately, it's well, what is the bigger picture here? I don't see that right now, but I am looking forward to seeing more of what Moro has to offer in the future. So ultimately, I got to give it 50-50. I think his design is great. I think his abilities are awesome as well. But to see that what Goku and Vegeta are having to go through to actually defeat him, it kind of makes it weird to see that, well, now Vegeta's resorting to learning things that Goku learned 30 years ago. And then Goku who has access to both Beerus and Whis, unlike Vegeta, who has sparred with Beerus, a few chapters ago, quite a few chapters ago, prior to his run of power. Goku doesn't do anything like that. It's that he resorts to training with Merus. And I think that's kind of a forced plot point. Is it fun? Yes. Is it interesting? Absolutely. But it is kind of forced. And that's just basically what I have to say. So because of that, I think that kind of makes Moro less intriguing than he originally was.
I disagree to an extent because I feel like the way Moro is written, he's very sadistic. He seems to be very nonchalant because obviously his motives aren't really to become the strongest or to defeat Son Goku as everyone else was or wanted to do. But when looking at what Moro can do against the likes of Ultimate Gohan and Android 17, perhaps Piccolo, how do you see this fight going down? Because with Moro being able to siphon their energy without them even being aware of it, I think that inevitably that's going to be a detriment to all of them unless they come up with some sort of a plan to attack him from a distance or do something that prevents their ki from being taken. So when looking at what Moro can do, can he easily just slap 17, Gohan, and Piccolo by using their own energies against them? Or do you see a different narrative playing out to where in some capacity the Z fighters are going to have a fighting chance?
Yeah, it's not out of the ordinary to assume or to suggest that Moro can smack all of them. I mean, Goku And Vegeta basically claimed that at full power, Super Saiyan Blue, they should be able to take on Moro, and this is prior to him like getting his full power or whatever. But basically, when they were fighting him, when he was like shooting all that lava and Genki all over the place on Namek, on New Namek, that's pretty much stated. So if you want to go based on scaling, those Blue Gokus are much stronger than the Gokus that fought Broly in the Broly arc. Even though we haven't seen it, the point is that we did get like one specific panel, and they basically say that Goku and Vegeta emerged from that fight stronger than they've ever been before. It's what stronger than however you want to depict stronger than they've ever been before or whatever or prior. It's up to you, but it's not really out of the ordinary. It's not out of the ordinary to suggest that Moro can smack Gohan and 17 and everybody else in company. Because Goku and Vegeta are basically training to, like, for example, Goku's trying to train to, tap into UI again. That automatically suggests that Moro can, if that level of power, that level of like ability is needed, then you just have to suggest that, yeah, he can easily smack them. I mean, if anything, right now what they're trying to show is that, technique is kind of important, which is why Vegeta's going to learn, he's going on Planet Yardrat to learn a thing or two. And then you have Goku trying to train with Merus so that way he can move better, or just, master yourself movements, so on and so forth. So these are all various forms of techniques that are needed to actually get to Moro. And even when Goku and Vegeta had the strength to defeat Moro, they just couldn't physically get to him. That's also another problem for them. So they got to figure out a way to actually get to him. And I guess Goku's thinking, UI, obviously. And then you have Vegeta. I don't know what he's thinking, because I guess let's learn the techniques that didn't work last chapter. So I don't know what Vegeta's thing is, but maybe I'd imagine that Vegeta going there to learn these things, there has to be something greater that comes from it. I don't think it's just for instant transmission. I don't think it's just for gigantification or like, the Fufu multiform or whatever. I think that it's just more so about ki control, things like that, mastering your emotions, because if you can master your ki, you should be able to master the idea of, emotions and things like that, and be able to fight a lot better, which is kind of the idea of Ultra Instinct anyway. So it would be interesting to see how both Goku and Vegeta are using different methods, as to where Goku is walking into this training session with Ultra Instinct in mind, and Vegeta isn't, and they end up both simultaneously, one way or another, tapping into that in some way, shape, or form. If that's the goal, sure, fine, why not? Also seeing Vegeta, jump into that kind of territory would be amazing for the manga, I think. I think it'd be amazing for the franchise and for the fandom. But what's kind of interesting is, the direction as far as Moro. It just comes down to Moro again. Obviously he's using his spotter as a means of running around to scout planets off, but we have already established that Moro can already detect life forms anyway. He should be able to detect, strong signatures, so on and so forth. So this stuff isn't particularly new. So to have fodder run around, and scout these planets for him is just more of your ROF kind of stuff, more Frieza Army kind of stuff. Not that it's a bad thing. It is an interesting twist. It is fresh and it is new, and I assume it's enjoyable for a lot of people. But it's more of what we've gotten already, and it kind of, at this point, all we can really do is sit back and watch how they handle it.
Now, speaking of handling, how do you think the Z Fighters are going to handle Moro once he inevitably ends up on Earth? Because I don't think that by the time Moro arrives, that Goku and Vegeta are going to complete their training with Merus and with the Yardrats. I don't think that they're going to be around. I think that when Goku and Vegeta arrive, they're going to arrive on a very desolate planet. So when looking at what the likes of, like, for example, 17 could do, and I really think that they need to include 17, because why not include the MVP of the TOP, especially if more than half of these characters were not featured or even referenced within the Dragon Ball Super Broly movies. So what better way than to have them fight against one of the, I guess you could say, top antagonists thus far in the Dragon Ball Super manga. So when looking at, the way they're going to handle this, do you think that characters like 17 could be a detriment in the fact that they could only be like a battery supply for Moro to endlessly drain energy, and for Moro having to take their own energy and use that against them? Do you think that that would be a good thing for them to do, or do you think that as a whole it would be just an overall bad direction to go in?
No, I think they could always do it differently in the manga, because in the manga we didn't get the Genki Dama, I believe, so they could handle it differently. Life force could be the actual life force of the living being, to where it would particularly kill 17. Remember, he's not full. He's a cyborg. He's half human, half machine. So there is some essence of like life there, I'd imagine, right? And they could always take that route, because that seems to be the case. Like if you look at, like, again, New Namek, he sucked up so much to the point where they've turned to like nothing. So that would be the idea, in my opinion. They could take that route. I guess that would give 17 some more flair some more, favor points, which would be great, I think, and be an enjoyable read, in my opinion. But as far as like ultimately what it comes down to is this: if Moro gets to Earth, shit's about to go down. It kind of feels like that's the climax, right? And then another question you have to ask yourself: well, what if Beerus and Whis are there, eating food, and Moro just decides to come start sapping energy from everybody? Can he even do it to them? Can he do it to Beerus? Maybe not Whis, obviously, but can he do it to Beerus? Or does Beerus just get tight and say, "Listen, Kai"? Like, I mean, people keep asking for it. We see Beerus there, and he's willing to showcase a thing or two. Tournament of Power, prior to Tournament of Power, this next exhibition match, got all the gods of destruction fight each other. He spars with Vegeta, and then you have Moro who just comes and decides to just do whatever he wants. He just sucks energy from everybody, and Beerus is just there like, well, do you really want to suck on energy of destruction? And then he just like dies or something like that, So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities, but ultimately, when Moro gets to Earth, you have to assume it feels like we're getting to the climax of the arc. I'm not saying that the next chapter will be the last chapter. I'm just saying that we're getting towards the spicy stuff now. This is the showdown. Will they execute it to a way where it's enjoyable to read?
I definitely think that once Moro gets to Earth, I really don't see anybody stopping him. The only thing I can end up seeing here is the fact that 17 could simply use his shield barrier to protect everybody, but even then, it's just so weird to see how they're going to paint this out to be, because literally anything can happen, and I think that Goku and Vegeta are going to end this once they inevitably end up reaching Earth. But this is where you guys come in. We want to get your thoughts in the comment section below about the upcoming manga chapter, and once Moro ends up going to Earth, how do you guys think that's going to happen? Is it going to go down the way we all think it's going to go down and our heroes are going to stand tall, or are they all going to be utterly obliterated to the point where they need more help? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to hit this video up with a big fat like by slapping that thumbs up button, guys. Hit that subscribe button as well. Also, follow Emosh's YouTube channel and his Twitter. I'm going to go on ahead and leave his links located down in the description box below. So be sure to go on ahead, check him out, follow him on Twitter, and subscribe to his YouTube channel, guys. Thank you all once more for watching. Tune back in for more. The hype is real because I feel as if Moro does have a lot to offer, but we're going to have to wait and see in what kind of direction they're planning on going in, because at this point, literally anything can happen. So again, thank you all so much for your time, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Take it easy, guys. Peace!
This is the Galactic Emperor of the Universe, and of course I'm here to tell you to subscribe to UnrealEntGaming.
Also follow UnrealEntGaming on these social media platforms to stay connected at all times. And if you don't, then very soon you will all be dead! Oh, did someone say UnrealEntGaming? Oh my god.
The fuck's up, on? Put on some clothes!
Well, why don't you put on any clothes?
What? I don't need clothes. Jesus Christ, that's huge! What, Broly?
Freezer.
Uh-oh.
Prepare to die!